Holy shit. Yeah, so Nintendo just they just announced the Switch 2 in the most casual way possible. And I know, yeah, I'm like 2 months late, but well, shut up. So the Switch 2 had an official announcement, and I made a what I want for Switch 2 video, I think in December. So let's revisit that topic now that we have actually seen what the console itself looks like, even though the leakers already clearly knew. So, yeah, what did I make in that original video? Well, I'd said that I wanted the console to have a better UI, which, yeah, I still want a better UI. The current Switch UI is horrifyingly bad. And I mentioned some stuff about stylus and extra features and stuff, but there's a couple other things and a couple things I'd like to renounce in that video. Firstly, the stylus, yeah, that's not happening. So we've seen the console, it doesn't have an area for a stylus, and I don't think Nintendo's going to be, you know, adding an area for a stylus, or I don't think they've been hiding a stylus port from people. So yeah, no styluses. However, apparently, we don't even need a stylus because of, MouseCon. So, yeah, Nintendo, they just out of the blue, pretty much, they never officially have announced it, but it's pretty much confirmed thanks to the trailer plus leaks and, you know, insinuations and the fact that Nintendo filed the patent, that the Joy-Cons are going to have an IR sensor in them that will allow them to be used like mice. And to show you how this would work, here's a normal Switch Joy-Con. So the basic premise for how I understand it would work is you would have it like this with this part facing down, and then you just use it like this, and this would be your left click and your right click. Yeah, I mean, when comparing it to an actual mouse, you know, I can see where, you know, if the idea could work. And considering that the Switch 2 Joy-Cons are meant to be larger than the Switch 1 Joy-Cons, yeah, I think it could work. The main reason I'm bringing this up is because, well, with MouseCon, well, there's not really any need for a stylus. The whole point of the stylus on the 3DS and the DS and on the Wii U was so that you had better control over the touchscreen. But you don't need to control the touchscreen if you're just using a mouse, which is just as easy. So, yeah, MouseCon, honestly, it's a far better thing, in my opinion, than the stylus. So, in terms of stylus, I didn't guess correctly with it, but, we got something better, so at least there's that. Additionally, one thing I don't think I mentioned in that video, I think, was the idea of Street Pass, which was a feature that was on the 3DS, where if you had a 3DS and you passed by someone else on the street who also had a 3DS, and both 3DSs happened to be on at the same time, you could Street Pass with them, where you share data with them, me on their 3DS transfer over to your one, and your one would transfer over to theirs, and there was this entire little mini game already pre-built into the 3DS called Street Pass Plaza, where you could, you know, do stuff with Street Pass. It was actually a pretty cool feature, and, you know, I sometimes still take my 3DS around places, mainly to airports if I'm going on holiday somewhere or some sort of trip, and, you know, I've occasionally gotten a Street Pass from someone there, and it's always a fun experience, right? Because Street Passes are so rare nowadays. It's always fun to look at your 3DS and then see that little green light light up and be like, oh hey, I walked past someone who was also still, for whatever reason, carrying around a 3DS in 2025. I kind of want the same thing for Switch 2. The fact that you could walk past someone and they could just have a 3DS and you wouldn't even know, and you'd have your 3DS, and by the time you got home, you open up your 3DS and oh look, you've passed by someone. I think that would be a cool feature for the Switch 2 as well. The fact that, you know, the Switch 2 as well is almost certainly going to sell like absolute hotcakes, so a lot of people are going to have them, so I think Street Pass would honestly work really well as Switch 2. I think a lot of people are likely to be having them and, well, carrying them around with them, so why not add Street Pass? I don't think it would be that difficult for Nintendo to do. I mean, they already did it with the 3DS and, well, that's about it. They've already done it. They know how to do it. So why not just do it again for the Switch 2? It's not really something that I would assume would take up a lot of time or resources, so, you know, I think it would be a fun little feature to add. But that's what I went over pretty much, I'm pretty sure, in my first video. But now that we've actually seen the trailer, is there anything that's changed? Anything new that I want from the Switch 2? Yeah, there is. So let's go over those. Firstly, this was a confirmed feature during the trailer that I think is just really good and not something I think I went over in that video. I might have actually. We're gonna go over it right now. Backwards compatibility with the original Switch. Godsend feature. I mean, I'm pretty sure I was expecting this anyways. I'm pretty sure everyone was expecting this, but backwards compatibility, amazing feature, amazing thing. Really glad they're doing that. One thing that I'm hoping for as well for the Switch 2, and this isn't even something directly linked to the console, but better online servers. Nintendo servers, especially if you're playing something like Mario Kart, are infamous for their absolutely insane lag. Like, Mario Kart is really bad on Switch for lag. So I want them to update the servers for Switch 2, especially considering 24-player Mario Kart, which, quick little side tangent, 24-player Mario Kart and a new Mario Kart on the Switch 2. That is really cool. I actually am really excited for the new Mario Kart. I actually quite like the new art style and art direction. I still think Donkey Kong looks weird, but all the other characters look decent. Realistically, I think the next Mario Kart, I think is going to be a really good one. I think it's going to be the biggest yet. Well, it's going to have to be the biggest. I mean, 24-player races, come on. But I intend to make a video on the next Mario Kart eventually. So, yeah. Anyways, side tangent over. Switch 2 stuff. Well, honestly, I don't think there is that much else that I'm wanting from Switch 2. Oh yeah, that weird button. So yeah, on the right Joy-Con, there is a C button. I mentioned this in my original video, and no one knows what it does. Still, no one still knows what it does or what it is for or why it's there. So it just kind of is. My prediction is still something possibly like the cast button I suggested, where you have the Switch dock and you can use your Switch 2 and cast your screen to the dock, which will cast it to the TV, so you can have a sort of pseudo Wii U experience. But in this case, the Wii U gamepad can actually be taken with you, isn't required to stay in the exact same room as the actual console itself before it disconnects. I think this would be good for, number one, well, Wii U games, but also for DS and 3DS games, because, well, they were infamously using dual screen, and I think something that's using dual screen, I think that would be a cool thing. Additionally, it would allow for some 3DS and DS games, especially with the MouseCon, to actually much more easily make their way over to Switch 2, because instead of having to use a stylus, you can just use, well, the Joy-Con as a mouse. Something like Tomodachi Life, or any of the DS Zelda games, where you have to click on the screen to be able to move Link, any of those would work, I'd assume, pretty well with the MouseCon and using a dual screen setup using a cast button that casts it to the dock. I think it would be a pretty useful feature. I think it would work pretty well. Another thing I'm wanting to bring to Switch 2, or I want Nintendo to bring to Switch 2, is more Switch Online stuff. You know, Switch Online, infamously, you know, it's alright, you know, it's got some games. I want more games, specifically more different consoles. Yeah, I want GameCube and Wii games on there. Listen, Nintendo, I don't actually care about using Dolphin Emulator. I would be fine to pay you money to play Wii games and GameCube games on a Switch, right, on your actual hardware. but you don't sell them. I want portable Mario Kart Wii, and if Nintendo was selling a version of Mario Kart Wii on the Switch, I would buy it and use the Switch for playing Mario Kart Wii, but they don't. So I'm hoping they do something like that for Switch 2. I just think in general Nintendo should just have better compatibility with a lot of their older consoles in terms of bringing games from those consoles over to their newer generations. Because Nintendo, out of all companies, they care so much about piracy, and yet they're unwilling to stop piracy by just bringing old games over to new consoles so people can enjoy the games legally, easier than, you know, just striking down any piracy website that ever exists, which that's never gonna work because there's always just gonna be another piracy website that'll exist that people will find and use. And one last little thing I want from Switch 2, and this is just a tiny little quality of life feature, and this is kind of a two things. And it is bring the eShop off of being a really bad browser shop and make it an actual, you know, app on the Switch. And the Switch can clearly run a browser. So just add an internet browser to it. Listen, there's been a couple times where I have lost my phone or something, I've had my Switch on me, and I've genuinely said to myself, damn, if this thing had an internet browser, I would consider using it at this exact moment in time. Now, granted, not incredibly often does that happen, but, you know, often enough. And with the mouse cons, internet browser kind of seems like a no-brainer. You know, if you got the mouse con, you could sell a keyboard accessory, and, well, Switch 2 is at that point basically just a little laptop, so you might as well add a little web browser to it as well. And, yeah, in terms of the eShop, Nintendo, please fix it. I am so sick of this thing. I wouldn't even mind the lag if, you know, the games were actually good. You know, you get some good games, you know, you get actual Nintendo official games, a couple good indie games. The majority of the games on the eShop, though, let's not kid ourselves here. They are just porn games. I mean, come on, Nintendo's supposed to be the family-friendly company. Why are they the ones with the porn games on their eShop? It should be the other companies. I'm not advocating for other companies to have them. I'm advocating for Nintendo not to have them. That's pretty much all, though. I mean, most of the things I want from the Switch 2 are just things I said in my previous video, but I wanted to tag on a couple extra things and, you know, what I feel about the trailer. Personally, I've got a really good feeling about the Switch 2. I think it's going to be possibly my new favorite console. I think it's going to have some of my new favorite games on it. I think it's going to be really great. So yeah, I just wanted to speak on what I thought about the Switch 2, what I wanted from it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, what is the final verdict on the Switch 2 and everything I want from it and everything we know on it? Well, I think it would be really funny if MouseCon players start consistently beating players on, like, PlayStation and Xbox and cross-platform multiplayer games. I think it would be really funny if Switch players began to become like the new PC players of gaming.